Cocoa, Florida is the perfect spot for a classic tractor fan like Bernie Scott to take care of his growing fleet of classic farm tractors. And Bernie knows Oliver fans will immediately recognize this shade of green, though they might be surprised to see it on a couple of tractors this small. That's because these extremely rare 1973 Oliver Town & Country home utility tractors were sold for only a very brief period of time.
These were only marketed for 1 year prior to White Motor Company selling their little silver yard bosses. That's why they are quite hard to find, and as near as we know, there are only about 400 serial numbers. This was done by White after they had bought Moline, Oliver, and Cockshut, and they used Jacobsen as their contractor to build these. If you weren't pretty actively involved with Oliver, even if you were driving Oliver, you might not have ever seen one, you know. And some dealers didn't become involved. It wasn't a high profit item, so they didn't want to do it. They were expensive, especially the bigger ones, for their time. They were a little more money than some of the competitors, and that probably had something to do with why there weren't as many sold also. I like them because they're hard to find. And I like the way they're built. They're built very well.
Oliver Town & Country tractors were offered in 5 different models with 4 different horsepowers. Bernie has the full set, plus 3 or 4 duplicates. Today, he's showing off the Model 75 and the bigger model 125H.
The 7-horse was only gear drive, 4-speed, and it had a vertical engine, Briggs & Stratton engine, and the model of the engine was 170707, which simply meant 7-horse electric start at the time. And that's the only way you could get that one. The 7-horse was much more basic, much fewer options available. This would have had probably a 42-inch mower under it, and I have a couple of the mowers. These would have had like a 32-inch mower under it. But it cost half or less than half as much. So, you know, depending on what your purpose was. It came from an area close to Fort Campbell, which is a military base area close to Hopkinsville. And he had started to restore it. Well, it was more or less in a basket when I got it. But all the necessary parts were there. The most necessary part, obviously, is an accurate serial number and model number. And it wasn't a big deal to bring back at all. It was decent shape, but even though it was apart.
The Oliver 125 was built over the same chassis as the 105. The major difference was that a 12-horsepower Kohler engine was used.
The 12-horse came either gear drive or hydro, and this is the hydro version behind me here. And they got a little more expensive, and consequently, at that time, farmers were, and I guess they still are, pretty conservative, and they, you know, oftentimes wouldn't spend the extra money to get the deluxe version. That seat being adjustable both on the top, the backrest, and so forth is what they called their deluxe seat. It's a little different than a normal lawn tractor seat. This is hydro. These bar tread tires were done at the discretion of the owner. And this is foot pedal operated hydro. You push this lever for forward and this heel contact for reverse. This particular one was sold in Dade City, Florida, and really reclaimed from the fence row. If it would have been a more common garden tractor, you'd have probably taken it to the junkyard. And a friend of mine who's in our tractor club had an Oliver dealership back in the 60s and 70s. He's many years ago retired, and when they closed his business, he had this tractor at his residence. It wasn't running, and they just parked it in the fence row and walked away from it. And 10, 15 years later, I happened to find out that it was there and went and talked to him about it and ended up buying it. Even though that tractor was in the fence row all those years, mechanically it was fine. It was the cosmetics that went away, and they did go away.
People have been collecting and restoring classic lawn and garden tractors for years, and Bernie says it's become one of the fastest growing areas of the hobby.
Virtually everybody that didn't live in a condo or an apartment had some kind of affiliation when they were growing up with a lawn. So, you know, that'd be a natural area for them to go to. And that's very, you know, it's showing. And of course, they're easy to haul and easy to work on. And there are many, many different examples out there of brands and model numbers and so forth, and ages, vintages and so forth. It's just endless. The rare ones, they go up pretty substantially, you know, after people find out which models are the ones to buy and the prices go up.
Bernie got his start collecting farm toys back in the 60s, before moving on to restoring the full-sized versions. Although he lives in Florida, he attends tractor shows all over the country and specializes in rare tractors of all sizes and brands.
I'm not partial to any one color, really. They all had their good points and their bad points. And nowadays, some of the ones that 10, 15 years ago weren't as popular are becoming much more popular as the guys learn more about them, and you get more restorers and they're doing a better job and so forth. The challenge to me is the search and doing the restoration work and making it come back to be exactly as it was when it was sold. And I'm kind of a stickler for authenticity. I don't like to modify them very much.
Like many who've caught classic tractor fever, for Bernie, maybe the best part is sharing the passion for restoring and remembering these fine machines with others.
I enjoy the camaraderie and the social interaction with the other collectors around the country. You can go anywhere in the country and there's somebody that's interested in the same thing you are. It's just a neat activity. And we have good people and we need more good people.
Hey, thanks for catching Classic Tractor Fever. If you'd like to see more Oliver tractors, be sure to check out these other great stories. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to keep our Oliver tractor stories rolling.